Humanity are fearful. Battle was declared by the Galactic Council till the sky above Nairobi had never looked so strange. At first, people thought it was a trick of the light, a satellite flare, maybe, or a weather balloon caught in the sunset. But then the shape grew larger, darker, and utterly silent. It blocked out the moon like a hand closing over a candle. It was smooth, black, and shaped like a teardrop turned on its side. Hundreds of kilometers long, humming with a deep vibration that made windows tremble and dogs howl. Dr. Amina Okoye stood on her rooftop, binoculars shaking in her hands. She was an astrophysicist, not a soldier, but she had spent her life studying stars, not invasions. Yet here it was, the impossible made real. The alien ship wasn't alone. More appeared over every continent, hanging in the sky like silent judges. No message, no warning, just presence. 3 hours earlier, the news had broken. Not from Earth's governments, but from deep space probes near Neptune. A transmission, clean and cold, in every major human language. Spoken in a voice without emotion, by order of the Galactic Concordance. The species designated Homo sapiens is hereby declared a Tier 0 existential threat to galactic stability. All human military, political, and technological structures must be fully dismantled within 72 standard hours. Non-compliance will result in immediate and total planetary neutralization. The message repeated for 10 minutes, then stopped. No follow-up. No negotiation. Panic exploded. In Tokyo, people flooded subway stations. In Sao Paulo, traffic jammed for kilometers as families tried to flee inland. In Moscow, emergency broadcasts urged calm, but few listened. Social media collapsed under the weight of fear, rumors, and final goodbyes. Some prayed. Some looted. Some just sat in silence, staring at walls. On the International Space Station, Commander Elena Ruiz stared out the window at the growing fleet near Jupiter. Her voice crackled over a secure line to Houston. They're not bluffing. I can count 40 warships, each one bigger than our entire fleet combined. She paused. They think we're monsters. And maybe they had reason to. Humanity had a messy history. Wars, pollution, nuclear weapons. But they'd also cured diseases, built symphonies, sent rovers to Mars, and taught computers to paint. The aliens hadn't seen that part. They'd seen war movies, hacking forums, and old battlefield footage mistaking fiction for fact. Chaos for intent. Back in Nairobi, Amina's neighbor, a retired schoolteacher named Mr. Bello, knocked on her door. His hands were full of bread and bottled water. "You've got no family here," he said softly. "You eat with us tonight." She nodded, throat tight. It was small kindnesses like this that made Earth worth saving. Across the planet, leaders scrambled. The United Nations held an emergency session, but voices clashed. India demanded resistance. France urged surrender to avoid annihilation. The United States, Russia, and China, old rivals, found unexpected agreement. We do not kneel. For the first time in centuries, Earth's nations began to speak with one voice. Not out of unity, but out of shared terror. In Geneva, the last diplomats of the old world drafted a reply. Not a threat, not a plea, just truth. We are not your enemy. We do not wish to destroy. We only wish to live. Please, talk to us. The message was sent into space. It vanished into the void. No answer came. By dawn, the alien ships had formed a perfect ring around Earth. Their surfaces shimmered with faint blue energy shields. Or weapons, no one knew. Satellites went dark one by one. GPS failed. Global communications frayed. Humanity was being wrapped in a cocoon of silence. In a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Cole watched live feeds from every corner of the world. He was old, scarred from wars no one remembered, but his eyes burned with resolve. "They think we'll beg," he muttered to his aide. "But humans don't beg when the wolf is at the door. We sharpen our knives." He opened a secure channel to every military base, every drone hub, every scientist with a working lab. This is not the end. This is day one. Start building. Start planning. Start fighting, not for victory, for time. In Seoul, engineers turned subway tunnels into missile silos. In Cairo, teenagers wired drones with homemade EMI charges. In Antarctica, researchers reprogrammed deep ice sensors to track alien energy signatures. Humanity, cornered, did what it always did. It adapted. Amina, back at her university lab, gathered students who refused to hide. "They think we're just noise and violence," she told them, her voice steady now. "Let's show them we're also minds. Let's show them we understand." They began scanning alien signals, not to attack, but to listen, to learn. Night fell again. The alien ring glowed faintly against the stars. From orbit, Earth looked small, fragile, blue, a pale dot in a sea of judgment. But on the ground, in cities and villages, in bunkers and basements, humans lit candles, held hands, told stories to children who might not see tomorrow. They cooked meals. They sang songs. They kissed loved ones with a tenderness sharpened by fear. And somewhere in that darkness, a little boy in Lagos asked his mother, "Will they kill us?" She hugged him tight. "Only if we let them." She didn't know if it was true, but hope, even false hope, was the last weapon left. 72 hours ticked down. 71. 70. The world held its breath. The aliens had expected fear. And yes, humanity was afraid deeply, terribly afraid. But fear was not surrender. Fear was the fuel. Fear was the reason they would fight harder, dig deeper, reach further than any species the galaxy had ever known. Because when you have everything to lose, you discover what you're truly made of. And the humans? They were just getting started. The 72 hours ended with silence. No explosion. No beam of light from the sky. Just a single message, colder than before. Compliance failed. Initiate protocol scourge. Earth did not wait to be scoured. In bunkers, labs, and command centers across the planet, humans sprang into action. The old governments were gone. In their place rose the United Earth Command, a patchwork alliance of generals, scientists, engineers, and even farmers who knew how to fix engines. They had no fleet like the aliens, no planet-shattering weapons. But they had something the aliens did not understand. Stubbornness. General Marcus Cole stood before a wall of live feeds in the Rocky Mountain bunker. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "We cannot win a fair fight, so we won't fight fair." The plan was simple: confuse, delay, and hurt. Make every alien victory cost more than it was worth. The first blow came not from a warship, but from Mars. The aliens had assumed the red planet was empty. They were wrong. For months, humans had been mining asteroids, testing engines, and building hidden docks in the shadow of Olympus Mons. Now, dozens of ships, most of them cargo haulers, mining rigs, and old supply shuttles lifted off in silence. They carried no soldiers, only metal rods, ice chunks, and rigged fusion cores. The alien fleet near Mars saw them and laughed. Or at least, their machines logged it as non-threat. They turned their attention back to Earth. That was their mistake. The human ships spread out, drifting like junk. Then, at a signal from the command ship Odyssey, they fired everything they had, not weapons, but raw mass. Thousands of metal rods, heated to near melting, shot toward the alien formation like rain. It was an old idea: kinetic bombardment. Cheap, brutal, effective. The aliens' energy shields flared. that they were built to stop lasers and plasma, not solid matter moving at orbital speeds. 3 Xylosian dreadnoughts buckled under the impact. One cracked in half. Another lost its main engine array. Panic rippled through their perfect formation. On Earth, cheers broke out in the command centers. It wasn't victory, but it was proof. The aliens could bleed Dot back in Nairobi. Amina and her students had a new job. Using hijacked satellite relays and old radio telescopes, they began broadcasting noise not random static, but patterns hidden inside nursery rhymes, weather reports, and old jazz songs. The aliens' eye filtered clean signals. But human noise was messy, emotional, illogical. It slipped through Dot in Tokyo. Teenagers turned delivery drones into swarms. Painted black, armed with tiny EMP bursts, they flew in chaotic clouds toward alien scout ships near the atmosphere. The aliens tried to track them, but drones zigzagged like fireflies, crashing into sensors, blinding cameras, shorting out weak points. One scout ship, confused by 200 false heat signatures, fired on its own ally by mistake. Everywhere, humans used what they had. Old tanks buried under city rubble became ambush turrets. Fishing boats in the Pacific launched homemade sonar pulses to jam underwater alien probes. Even artists helped projecting huge holograms of forests and children's drawings onto low-flying alien ships, trying to say, "We are not monsters. Look at what we love." The aliens grew frustrated. Their war doctrine assumed predictable enemies. But humans did not follow rules. They hid in schools, fought from hospitals, used wedding music as a signal to launch attacks. To the aliens, it seemed insane. To humans, it was survival. High Chancellor Verlek of the Qatari hegemony watched the reports from his command throne aboard the Eternal Edict. He was ancient. His species lived for thousands of years. And war was a clean mathematical art. But this was chaos. Why do they waste their last moments on tricks? He asked his aide. Perhaps, the aide replied quietly, they do not see these as their last moments. Verlek said nothing. But for the first time, doubt flickered in his ancient mind. On Earth, the cost mounted. Cities burned. The skies filled with smoke. Millions fled underground. Food grew scarce. Yet, people shared what little they had. In Berlin, a baker gave away his last loaves to refugees. In Mumbai, doctors worked 20-hour shifts in basement clinics lit by bicycle-powered lamps. The war was not just fought with weapons. It was fought with kindness, with memory, with the refusal to become what the aliens feared. General Cole knew they couldn't hold forever. But they didn't need to. They just needed to last long enough for the galaxy to notice. That's when Captain Li Wei and the crew of the Odyssey did something reckless. They slipped past the alien blockade, not by speed, but by silence. They turned off all engines, drifted like space junk, and used Jupiter's magnetic field to mask their signal. For 3 days, they floated in darkness, breathing recycled air, eating cold rations, waiting. Then, far beyond the Sol system, they activated their final payload, a broadcast, not a threat, not a plea, a library, music, poetry, photos of sunsets, recordings of laughter, lessons in math and medicine, footage of a grandmother teaching her grandson to plant rice. All of it encoded in simple binary, beamed toward neutral star systems, trade routes, forgotten colonies. If they think we're only war, Lee whispered over the comes to Earth, let them hear our joy. Back home, the fighting raged. The aliens, angered by their losses, sent a full battle group toward Earth's moon. Luna was now a human fortress full of radar dishes, missile launchers, and emergency shelters. The aliens planned to wipe it clean, but humans had one last trick near the moon. Phobos, The moon of Mars had been turned into a weapon, not by adding bombs, but by removing rock. Engineers had drilled deep, planet-shaped charges and turned the small moon into a giant slingshot. When the alien fleet moved toward Luna, Earth Command triggered the charges. Millions of tons of rock broke free, pulled by Mars gravity, then slingshotted toward the alien path. Not one big rock, thousands of them, moving fast, impossible to dodge all at once. It was like throwing gravel into a fan. The alien fleet scattered, but too late. Ships collided. Shields overloaded. One flagship lost its command deck to a house-sized boulder, moving at 30 kilometers per second. The humans on Luna watched the chaos on their screens. No one cheered. They were too tired. But a young technician named Rosa wiped her eyes and said, "They'll think twice before calling us primitive again." High above in the silent dark, the Odyssey's broadcast traveled onward. It reached a listening post run by the quiet Gizzle, a species that had long ago abandoned war. An old Gizzle archivist played a recording of a human lullaby to his grandchild. The child smiled. The archivist saved the file under a new category, Species Worth Knowing. On Earth, night fell again. The air smelled of smoke and rain. In a field near Nairobi, Amina looked up. The alien rings still glowed, but now, gaps appeared where ships had been destroyed or damaged. It wasn't much, but it was hope. She thought of the little boy in Lagos who asked if they would die. She didn't have an answer yet, but she knew this. Fear had not broken them. It had sharpened them, made them clever, made them bold. The aliens had expected a quick cleanup. Instead, they found a nest of hornets, small, stinging, and impossible to ignore. And humanity. They were just getting started. The war had been going on for months, and Earth was bleeding. Cities that once sparkled with light now lay in ruins. Rivers ran black with ash. The air tasted of metal and smoke. Billions were gone. The alien fleets, though wounded, still held the skies. Their ships moved with cold precision, dropping silent bombs that turned forests to glass and oceans to steam. But Earth had not fallen. In the dark corners of the broken world, life went on. Not as it once had, with ease or comfort, but with quiet courage. Underground farms grew mushrooms under UV lamps in subway tunnels. Teachers held classes in basements, using chalk on broken tiles. Children learned math, history, and how to patch a water filter. Hope was no longer loud. It was a whisper, passed from one person to the next. In Geneva, what remained of the United Earth Command met in a concrete room lit by battery-powered lamps. General Marcus Cole looked older, his face lined with grief and grit. Losses were heavy. Luna Base had fallen. Mars was silent. The Odyssey's signal had gone quiet weeks ago. No one knew if it still flew. Yet Cole did not speak of surrender. "We hold," he said, voice low but firm. "Not because we think we'll win tomorrow, but because if we stop today, there is no tomorrow." And so, humanity held. In Cairo, a group of engineers turned old car batteries into power cells for laser turrets hidden in the ruins of the pyramids. In Antarctica, scientists used ice caves as labs to study alien debris, searching for weaknesses. In Jakarta, fishermen repurposed sonar gear to detect cloaked scout ships near the coast. Every hand helped. Every mind worked. But the true battle was not just for land or air. It was for spirit. In a bunker beneath Warsaw, a young girl named Kasia kept a diary. She wrote about the taste of real bread before the war, the sound of birds before the silence, and her dream of seeing the ocean again. Her words were copied by others, passed hand to hand, posted on shared screens. "We remember," one entry read, "so we do not become ghosts." The aliens noticed the change. Their soldiers, tall, armored beings with smooth black eyes, reported strange behavior from humans. Prisoners shared food with guards. Wounded fighters warned civilians before detonating traps, giving them time to run. Even in defeat, humans showed care. One alien medic, Zinra of the Velm species, treated a human soldier on the moon's surface after a failed raid. The man was dying, leg crushed under fallen metal. Yet when Zinra offered him water from her own kit, he shook his head and pointed to a wounded alien nearby. "He needs it more," the human whispered in broken galactic code. Zinra gave the water to her own kind, but she never forgot the human's eyes. Calm, kind, not full of hate. She began to question everything she'd been told. Back on Earth, resistance grew quieter but deeper. No more grand fleets. No more big battles. Just small acts that added up. A hacker in Buenos Aires leaked alien patrol schedules. A farmer in Kenya hid refugees in old irrigation tunnels. A musician in Seoul broadcast calming songs on emergency frequencies to keep people from despair. And then came the whispers from space. Faint signals, broken but clear, started reaching Earth's hidden antennas. Not from the Odyssey, but from other worlds. A Jezal trader reported hearing human music near the Zeta Reticuli system. A free colony near Vega asked, "Are the humans really monsters?" A former slave species, long oppressed by the Galactic Concordance, sent a simple message: "We see your fight. We remember our own." The broadcast had worked out. It didn't bring armies, but it planted seeds. On the front lines, those seeds began to sprout. Alien conscripts forced into service from conquered worlds started to hesitate. Some disabled their weapons during raids. Others left supply crates lost near human camps. Rumors spread of a Xylosian pilot who refused orders to bomb a school shelter and vanished the next day. The Concordance responded with cruelty. They declared all human worlds contaminated. They ordered the use of planet cracker orbs, ancient weapons that could split a world's core and turn it to dust. The first orb was already charging near Saturn. Earth had no shield against such power, no weapon to stop it. But they had one last plan. In a hidden lab under the Himalayas, a team led by Dr. Amina Okoy worked day and night. They had studied the alien language, their code, their logic, and they found a flaw. The Concordance AI loved order. It filtered out noise, but human noise, songs, poems, laughter was full of patterns the AI didn't understand. It treated them as errors and tried to fix them. So Amina's team built a virus, not of code, but of culture. They wrapped a simple logic loop inside a 200-year-old Earth folk song called The Parting Glass. The melody carried a hidden question. If a being shows mercy in war, is it truly a monster? The AI, trying to correct the emotional data, would chase the loop endlessly like a dog chasing its tail until it froze. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. Meanwhile, on the moon, a final stand began. A small human force, less than 500 soldiers, held a crater near Tycho. They knew they would die, but their job was simple: buy time. While they fought, engineers on Earth prepared to send the song virus into the alien network using a captured drone. The battle was short and brutal. Plasma fire lit the gray dust. Human soldiers, wearing patched armor and breathing recycled air, fired old rifles and threw magnetic charges. They fell one by one, but they held the crater for 6 hours long, enough. In the last moments, a young pilot named Lena, her ship half melted, saw the planet cracker orb glowing in orbit. She had one shot. No weapons left. Only her ship's core. She didn't hesitate. She aimed her broken craft straight at the orb's control node and sang into the comms loud. "Clear, off key. So fill to me the parting glass." Her ship exploded on impact. The orb wobbled, then went dark. At the same moment, across the Concordance network, the folk song spread like pollen on the wind. Alien systems stuttered. Ships lost coordination. Command signals froze for 7 critical seconds. Thought it was enough. On Earth, alarms blared not of attack, but of confusion in the enemy lines. General Cole stood up. "Now," he said, "while they're blind." From hidden bases, human drones surged, not to destroy, but to broadcast. Not war cries, but voices. A child reading a story. A grandmother humming. A scientist explaining stars. The message was clear. We are here. We are human. And we will not be erased. In the silence that followed, something new stirred in the galaxy. Not victory. Not yet, but a chance. And for the first time in months, Amina stepped outside her bunker and looked up. The alien rings still hung in the sky, but now a single ship, small and silver, had broken away from the fleet. It hovered alone, lights blinking in a pattern no one recognized. It wasn't attacking. It was watching, and maybe listening. The silence after Lena's sacrifice did not last long, but it lasted long enough. For 7 seconds, the vast alien network stuttered. Ships drifted off course. Orders failed to reach their targets. The planet Cracker orb near Saturn went dark, its core cooling like a dying star. And in that sliver of time, humanity struck not with bombs, but with truth. From every hidden antenna, every jury-rigged satellite, every drone buzzing through smoke-filled skies, Earth sent out a new signal. Not a weapon, not a threat, just voices. A child in Oslo reading a poem about snow. A fisherman in Manila singing an old sea shanty. A doctor in Nairobi describing how she saved a wounded alien scout by using human antibiotics. The message was simple. We are not your enemy. The Galactic Concordance tried to shut it down. They jammed frequencies, erased data, executed officers who showed doubt. But the signal had already spread, like a seed carried by wind. It reached neutral systems, slave colonies, even quiet corners of the Concordance itself. On the planet Velm Prime, Medic Zinra played the Nairobi doctor's recording for her commander. "She saved one of ours," Zinra said. "Why would a monster do that?" The commander had no answer. Back on Earth, the war did not stop, but it changed. The aliens, confused and divided, pulled back from full attacks. Patrols became cautious. Bombing slowed. Some ships even hovered for days without firing, as if watching, waiting. Humans used the pause wisely. In the ruins of London, engineers built solar stills from broken glass and old car parts to turn ash rain into clean water. In Siberia, pilots trained on simulators made from video game consoles, preparing for the day they might fly real fighters again. In the Sahara, farmers grew food under plastic sheets, feeding thousands from patches of desert. Life returned, not as it was, but as it could be. And then, the first defector came. A small ship no bigger than a bus landed in the salt flats of Utah. It bore no weapons, no flags. Just a single symbol, a circle with a line through it, the ancient human sign for peace. Out stepped 3 beings, 2 Xylosians and 1 Gezel. They carried no arms, only data drives filled with Concordance secrets, fleet positions, weapon codes, and proof that the Council had lied about humanity from the start. "They called you a plague," said the Gezel, voice soft through a translator. "But we heard your songs. We saw your mercy. We know the truth." General Cole met them himself. He did not smile, but he offered them water. That night, the defectors shared what they knew. The Concordance was not united. Many species obeyed out of fear, not belief. Slave worlds were ready to rise. Even some Qatari, once the Council's strongest voice, now questioned their leaders. Hope, once a whisper, grew into a voice. Using the stolen data, Earth Command launched Operation Dawn, not to destroy, but to connect. Human drones, painted white instead of black, flew toward alien ships with open channels. They broadcasted not war plans, but help. "We can fix your wounded," one message said. "We share food. We do not ask for thanks." At first, no one answered. Then, near Jupiter, a damaged Qatari scout ship accepted. Humans sent a medical pod. Inside were bandages, painkillers, and a note, "For your pilot." From Earth. The pilot lived. News spread fast among alien crews. "The humans heal," they whispered. "They do not torture. They do not lie." Doubt became courage. More ships defected. Then, whole squadrons. A colony world near Alpha Centauri rose up, using human broadcast codes to jam concordance orders. A mining planet turned its drills into weapons and declared independence. The Galactic Concordance, once all-powerful, began to crack. But they were not done. Furious and desperate, the Council's High Command ordered one final act: activate all planet cracker orbs at once. Not just for Earth, but for every world that showed human sympathy. They would burn the disease out, even if it meant burning the galaxy with it. Earth had days, maybe hours. Yet this time, they were not alone. The defectors brought more than secrets. They brought ships. Old, worn but armed. Former slave worlds sent fighters. Neutral traders shared fuel. Bajizel sent engineers to help Earth's labs. For the first time, humans and aliens stood side by side. In orbit, a new fleet formed, not grand or polished, but fierce. Patched hulls, mismatched weapons, crews who spoke a dozen languages but shared one goal: stop the orbs. Amina Okoye boarded the lead ship captured. Qatari cruiser renamed Departing Class. Her job was simple: guide the virus deeper into the Concordance core. This time, she wouldn't hide the song in noise. She would send it straight into the heart of their command. As the fleet moved toward Saturn, Earth held its breath. The battle was not like the others. No grand explosions. No duels between titans. It was quiet, tense, digital. Amina and her team linked their systems to the alien cruiser's core. They played the song not as a trick, but as a question. If you can feel mercy, are you not alive? The Concordance AI fought back. Firewalls rose. Alarms blared. But the song was not code. It was feeling. And feeling could not be deleted. One by one, the planet cracker orbs went silent, not destroyed. Not hacked. Persuaded. On the bridge of the Eternal Edict, High Chancellor Verlake watched his screens go dark. His hands trembled. For 10,000 years, his people had ruled through logic, order, control. But now, faced with a species that fought with kindness and died with grace, he saw the flaw in his own world. "We were wrong," he whispered. His own guards lowered their weapons. The war did not end with a bang. It ended with a signal. A single message sent from the Eternal Edict to every system in the galaxy: cease fire. Open talks. The humans are not the enemy. On Earth, people did not cheer. They cried. They hugged strangers. They fell to their knees in relief. In Nairobi, Amina looked up at the sky. The alien ring was breaking apart. Ships turned away, not in retreat, but in shame or respect. The little boy in Lagos ran outside, laughing. "They didn't kill us," he shouted. His mother smiled through tears. "No," she said, "because we showed them we were worth saving." And far above, on the bridge of the Parting Glass, Amina played the song one last time, not as a weapon, but as a gift. The galaxy listened. And for the first time, it heard not fear, but hope. The war was over, but peace did not come all at once. Silence hung over Earth like a heavy blanket. The alien ring had broken apart. Ships that once meant death now drifted far above, waiting. Some left. Others stayed, as if unsure what to do next. The sky, once filled with fire and fear, slowly returned to blue. On the ground, humans stepped out of bunkers, tunnels, and ruins. They blinked in the sunlight like people waking from a long nightmare. Cities were broken. Fields were scorched. But life remained. In Geneva, what was left of the United Earth Command gathered not in a bunker this time, but in a half-destroyed conference hall with a cracked glass roof. General Marcus Cole stood before them, older, tired, but standing tall. He did not speak of victory. He spoke of truth. "We didn't win because we were strong," he said. "We won because we refused to become what they thought we were." Across the planet, people began to rebuild. Not with anger, but with care. In Tokyo, neighbors cleared rubble together, sharing tools and water. In Cairo, doctors treated not just humans, but the few wounded alien soldiers left behind. In Nairobi, children planted seeds in ash-covered soil, whispering to them as if they could hear. And then the visitors came, not as conquerors, not as judges, but as guests. A small shuttle, white with a green stripe, landed near the ruins of the UN building in New York. Out stepped High Chancellor Warlock, once the voice of the Galactic Concordance, now a changed being. His robes were simple. His eyes held shame and something else, curiosity. He was met not by soldiers, but by a teacher named Maria, who held a basket of bread and apples. "You must be hungry," she said. Verlick stared. "You offer food to the one who tried to end your world." Maria nodded. "Hunger is hunger, and peace starts with a meal." That meeting led to another, and another. Soon, representatives from a dozen species came to Earth, not to inspect, but to learn. They walked through broken streets, watched children draw pictures of stars, listened to old women sing songs about rivers and rain. They saw hospitals built from shipping containers, schools and subway stations, libraries made of salvaged paper. They saw what humanity was when it was not at war. Back in space, the defector fleets formed a new alliance, not under one ruler, but as equals. They called it the Free Accord. Its first rule: no world shall be judged by its weapons, but by its heart. Earth was invited to join, but humans did not rush to accept. They asked questions. Will we be equal? Will our voice matter? Will you listen, not just command? The answer came slowly, but honestly. Yes. Months passed. The Treaty of Luna was signed not on paper, but in light beamed from Earth, the Moon, and a dozen star systems at once. No grand hall, no fancy robes. Just voices, speaking one after another, promising. No more lies, no more fear, no more war based on misunderstanding. At the center of it all stood Dr. Amina Okoye. She did not wear a uniform. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied back, her eyes calm. She spoke for Earth. "You thought we were monsters because you saw our wars," she said. "But war is not who we are. It is what we do when we are afraid. What you did not see until now was what we do when we are brave." She told them of farmers sharing seeds, of strangers giving blood, of pilots singing lullabies as they flew to their deaths. "We are messy," she admitted. "We make mistakes. We hurt each other sometimes. But we also heal. We create. We hope. And that," she said, "is why you should not fear us. But walk with us." The galaxy listened. In the months that followed, Earth did not seek revenge. It offered help. Human engineers traveled to former slave worlds to fix water purifiers. Doctors taught alien healers about vaccines and empathy. Artists shared stories, music, and paintings. A young boy from Lagos, now safe in a rebuilt school, sent a drawing of his village to his Elosian child and received one back of alien. Trees under twin suns. Even the concordance changed. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But the old council was gone. In its place rose a council of many voices, including Earth's. General Cole retired. He moved to a small farm in Colorado, where he grew corn and taught children how to fix radios. When asked about the war, he'd just say, "We didn't beat them. We showed them we were worth knowing." Captain Lee Way and the Odyssey were found drifting near Proxima Centauri, low on power but alive. Their broadcast had sparked a quiet revolution across the stars. Lee returned to Earth not as a hero, but as a friend carrying messages of thanks from worlds humans had never seen. And the little boy in Lagos? He grew up. He became a pilot not of warships, but of aid vessels, flying medicine and books to planets healing from their own wounds. Years later, a new school was built on the edge of Nairobi. Its name was simple: the Parting Glass Academy. On its wall, carved in stone and translated into 50 languages, was a single line. They declared war on us for what they thought we were. We showed them what we could be. Alien students sat beside human ones. They learned math, history, and how to grow food in dry soil. They also learned something deeper, that fear can be loud, but kindness is stronger. One evening, as the twin moons of a visiting Velen ship shone overhead, Amina stood on the school's roof, looking up. The sky was no longer a place of dread. It was a bridge. She thought of all the lives lost, all the pain, but also the hands that held each other in the dark, the songs that kept hope alive. The choice, again and again, to be better than fear demanded. Humanity had been called a threat, but in the end, they became something else entirely. A light in the dark, a voice for the voiceless, a reason for the galaxy to believe that even the smallest, messiest species could teach the stars how to be kind. And that more than any weapon, more than any victory, was the true meaning of humanity. They had been fearful, but they never stopped fighting for something worth loving. And that was why, in the end, the galaxy learned to do more than fear them. It learned to respect them, to trust them, to follow them, not as rulers, but as friends. And somewhere in a quiet corner of the universe, a child from Earth and a child from a distant star played together, building a tower out of blocks, dreaming of a future where no one had to be afraid again.